Hello all. Today's project is this sushi tray. This is one that I've made for a local Japanese restaurant. As you can see, it looks quite smart and quite simple. It's quite easy to make, so let's begin. The first thing I do is flatten the boards and true both sides of the timber. Now this is a 40mm board, so I need to split it in half. That's why I need to true up both ends of that slab. And if you're wondering what timber it is, the timber is quilted Queensland maple and Fiddleback blackwood that I'm using for these trays. Now, as I said, it's a 40mm thick board, so I'm splitting the board in half. I'll probably get 4 trays out of this board. The table saw can only cut 90 mils at a time, and this board's 130 mils, so I've lowered the blade and done a double pass. The next step is to cut the handle for the tray. I'm cutting this out of figured black wood. It's an offcut that's been lying around the workshop for a while. The size that this needs to be is 40 mils by 20 mils. I then thickness the boards to 12 millimeters. Normally I would use a thicknesser, but in this case it's highly figured maple, so I thought I'd just use a thickness sander to prevent tear out and hopefully get a better result. Next step is to cut the boards to length. I've just got a stop block there to cut them to length. Now one of the boards wasn't wide enough because the timber had a little bit of bark inclusion, so what I've done is I've just trimmed the width so that fourth board on top is a bit thinner. Now the next step is to shape the handle of the tray, and as you can see that's the 45 chamfer, and what I'll do is I'll just remove the bulk of the material now with the table saw rather than do it on the router table. So as you can see, I've removed the bulk of the thickness there, and we can now remove the final cut at the router table. So I've got a 45-degree router bit on the table at the moment, so it's just passing through to put that 45-degree pass in. Now this is the next step is the raised panel bit. That's where we use the bit to put that cove on the underside of the handle. Take a lot of little light passes rather than one big pass. So this is the final pass. I've just slowly adjusted the fence and the bit so that I've got the right shape. The next step is to cut the handle of the tray to length. Then we can start our sanding. We only need to sand the underside of the tray first and the cheeks of the handles. The rest we sand later after we've glued up. So here I'm sanding at 80 grit, just on the underside of the tray and the cheeks of the blanks. We then sand 120, 180, 240 and 320 grit sandpaper, and then we'll be ready for the next step. Now I use a Festool domino joiner. If you don't have a Festool domino joiner, you can use dowels or a biscuit to do the same thing. I really like using the Festool. Neil Scobie introduced me to it, and I swear by the little machine now. So once I've got all the holes machined in, I then dry fit it and make sure it all fits perfectly, and it does. So the next step is then the sanding of the curve bit. So this is the most laborious part of the whole job. Start off with 80 grit sandpaper, 120, 180, 240, and then 320. Sand that by hand. That's the only bit that the machine can't get into. Once it's sanded, it's ready for gluing. So here I am. I use masking tape to prevent squeeze out on the underside of the tray. The masking tape just stops the glue from hitting the underside of the tray, because it's quite difficult to sand into those little nooks and crannies. Apply the glue and then put it in the clamp. These Bessie clamps are really good, really enjoyable to use. Pipe clamps, I used to use pipe clamps, but they're a real pain in the backside. So ever since I've started using the Bessies, I try not to go back to the pipe clamps anymore. Once it's clamped, I use a steel rule just to check it, to make sure it's nice and straight. And once it's in the clamps, I then leave it for an hour or two. After it comes out of the clamps, then it's time for sanding. The overall sand, I use a mechanical sander. Start off with 80 grit, then 120, 180, 240, 320. You know, if you've seen my box making videos, you'll see how much I use this machine. So the first thing I do is I sand it to make sure the top is flat. Once the top is flat, I then sand the sides and the ends and the base. And if you sand the base, that makes it that means that the tray will sit on the table nice and flush. I then hand sand the top of the tray. I start with 400 grit, then go through to 800, 1200 and 1500 with a random orbital sander. This gives it a nice burnished shiny gloss on the top of the tray. I then sign the work. I write on a scrap piece of board what I want to write, and then it helps me position it in the middle of the tray. In this case, it's Queensland Maple and Tasmanian Blackwood, and then David Lim 2013 on the bottom. Final step is the oiling. I'm using U-Boots Food Safe Plus, which is I think a high grade mineral oil. Just apply it, in this case with a tissue, that's what I've done, and then just wipe off with a rag. It's food safe, so that means you can put food on it and it won't kill you. So just use as any normal other wooden utensil and wash it with hot soapy water, and if you need some more oil, just apply some more mineral oil onto it, and that's it. Remember, if you like this video, just like us on Facebook. You can find us by searching Timberbits, or hit the subscribe button on YouTube. Thank you.